Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland. In this episode, we'll be reviewing the RealGear GTPro3 Xtreme pedal set from the guys at Ricmotech, a premium priced pedal kit based on a 600 series Tilton race pedal set with a hydraulic-based brake pedal, a pneumatic-based clutch pedal, and a throttle pedal using a Hall Effects position sensor. This looks to be a pedal set that can deliver a great driving experience. Time to put it through the SRG's review process and see how it does. So, let's get to it. Now for our closer look segment on the RealGear GTPro3 Xtreme pedal set. First off, you'll notice it is a real set of racing pedals. It's a Tilton 600 set that they're basing their system on. And it's always nice to have a real set of racing pedals in your cockpit, I think. It looks good as far as aesthetics. Whether it performs well or not, well, we're just going to have to wait and find out. And you can see it's mounted to this base plate, which is extra. The pedals themselves come in at around $1,600. I think you can get free shipping on this. And this plate underneath here that it's mounted to, which also serves as a heel plate, this comes as an extra $100 if you want that. And it's pre-drilled on the bottom. Flip this over here. You can see we have some bolts in here that are holding this assembly on here. And we also have some holes that they've machined at Ricmotech. And we also have some other holes that the person who owns this set put in to fit his cockpit. The holes that Ricmotech puts in there are these M6 size slots. You can see them right here. And these other ones are for M8s. So I have to use M6 in the slots that were pre-cut, which I am going to use for my rig. And it'll work fine. Should be fine, I imagine, for mounting. This plate itself is 16 inches by 13 inches by 1/4 inch thick, or that's 405 millimeters by around 330 millimeters by 6 millimeters thick. So strong enough, I'm sure, to do what we need it to do here. So yes, we have a 3-pedal set here. You can see in this configuration, we have the thin faces for our clutch and our throttle, and the wider one for the brake pedal, which is my preferred setup. I like to have a little bit more surface area on the brake pedal so that if I don't have to be super duper accurate when I'm doing my heel and toe. And that's how I'm going to be using these pedals. I always like to test with heel and toe. Now let's go ahead and start turning this around. You'll see over here that this is a magnetic sensor here. So they have a Hall Effect sensor system on their pedal set. And I'm going to point this out here with a little pointer. You can see that there's actually a magnet down here. It shows in the light there, I think. And as we push the throttle pedal back, that magnet will go past this sensor that's in here, embedded in this plastic housing. And that's kind of an L-shaped plastic housing there. I think you can see it there with that little piece coming out here for mounting purposes. Now there are adjustments on this throttle, and there's actually 3, but there's 2 probably you're going to be using, but we'll go over the adjustments later. You can adjust this using some stops, so as far as the throw and the return, but there's also extra springs that you can get for a Tilton 600 series set pedal. So if it's too hard for you to push, then you can get a lighter spring or vice versa. I don't think they have more than 2 or 3 that are available. Anyway, so that's how the throttle pedal's working. The brake pedal is set up like any racing brake pedal in the Tilton series here. We have a bias bar here, and that's this long threaded piece that goes through here. What they do with that is if you turn this bar, it changes the way the bias between is how much this clevis or this clevis will move on these 2 master cylinders in the back. So if I want more, let's say, brake grip in the front, I would turn this until I got it to where I wanted to, which would be less on the back. And that's why we have 2 master cylinders in the back here. I'm going to turn this around here. Usually in a car setup, you'll have 1 master cylinder going to the front and 1 going to the rear. And that's the way we can bias it. It also gives us some adjustment. The way they've set it up, and we'll go over the adjustments in detail, but the way they've set it up here, it can also be used as fine-tuning what you want to do as far as the bumpers go. We got some extra bumpers over here. We'll talk about those too. But yeah, this is the way it comes stock. And these are very, very hard plastic units. These are auto fab bushings, the V125 units. I took them off and looked at them. It's a common bushing out there that auto fab makes. And we also have a slave cylinder over here next to these master cylinders. And this is what's going to obviously be activating or actuating when we push the brake pedal to pull it in and cause pressure inside of our cylinder here. And that's going to be picked up over here by this pressure sensor. And this is an SSI Technologies pressure sensor, and I got a picture of it here, a P5115G UB I364.5, for those of you who are interested in that. And we have another exact same thing over here. Very sensitive pressure sensor. It has a good reputation, this company, for these, as far as I could tell. And so they should give us a good long durability or life cycle in this, just like this contactless hall sensor that's over here. So I like the way they're setting this up. Now, if you notice, we've only got one line coming off this master cylinder over here, nothing on this one. But there is hydraulic fluid in both of these. So it's pushing basically against nothing, because this is a bleeder valve over here that we can use if we ever need to add fluid to it for whatever reasons. We got a leak, we had to put new seals in, rebuild the seals or something, and then you rebleed the system. You can do it right here. Okay, so yeah, some systems come with both of these with a line on it like this, a stainless line with a T in it, and then that T will come off a single that will go over to the slave cylinder where the actual pressure switch is over here. But it depends on how you want to do it. And it's just the way that Brickmotech decided to make this one work. What else can we talk about here? The clutch itself. This is going to be in a pneumatic setup. If you take this off, there's no fluid inside of here. I've already taken a look. That means that this pressure sensor is just picking up the change of the air pressure in here. And there's still a little vent hole up here to let something out. So when we're pushing it, it can move, right? It's not sealed up. It can still move, even my finger over there. But it does create some vacuum. I can feel it on there. And yeah, there's adjustments in here. There's like this, they've got this little, feels like a plastic boot material on here that's covering the actual piston that's going in and out of here. And again, that you can use that for a little bit of an adjustment too. So, but we're going to go over the adjustments in that segment when we get to the pedal adjustment segment. Right. What else can we talk about? That's pretty much it. As far as, and again, we'll talk about the pedals and how far. We can't go over that far. The width changes, but I think if you put both of these close together, you can get what you want. Personally, I still prefer pedals that I can move further apart. But then again, this is a real race car pedal set, so you don't get to do that. Now, we also get this guy. This is the controller box that has plugs on the back for our plugs over here. And these are nice plugs. I like the way they did this. These are what I like to call aviation style plugs with the little lock rings on them here. And they're color coded. You can see we got pink, green, and got a yellow one over here. And we have the corresponding 4-pin male connectors over here. Now we have an extra one over here, a blue one. I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe they have another accessory you can put on here for maybe a brake lockout, maybe, huh? Or a clutch lockout, rather. So if we don't pull the clutch pedal in too far enough, you can't change gears. Or maybe they have a handbrake or something else that you can plug in here and also control inside of this box. Now, this is a programmable system. So you can change, you have up to 5 profiles, and you have like 16 different options that you can change for each profile on the pedals. And I'm talking about curves for the brake pedal in the throttle, dead zones, smooth. They've even got a smoothing thing in there. I'm not sure what that's about, but yeah, this is in there. But anyway, and we're going to look at this in detail, obviously, when we start using it. It's got a USB plug, see, going over to the PC. And yeah, just a metal block here with a switch on it. And we'll check this out, obviously, when we get to that section. And we also have this, which is another accessory. This is a bumper kit. So if you don't like the bumpers in there, they're too stiff, you can't get this dialed in to where it feels comfortable, it's still too much pressure for you, then you can buy what they call their brake tuning kit. And that's basically some extra bumpers. We got orange ones. We got the orange one. Well, we got one orange one now. One went flying. This is a softer one than the black ones, but these are both softer than that hard stuff over there from AutoFab, because they're just like bushings for shocks or something like that, or maybe suspension components. But yeah, this will make it softer. Now this is an add-on, so you got to pay another $38 if you want these bumpers. I would like to have seen this included with a $1,600 set of pedals, but that's just me. I mean, you know, other pedals that were kind of like this, they included extra ones and you didn't have to pay for them, but hey, whatever. So yeah, I think that's about it for the closer look. Nothing else that we can ever really look at here as far as what the guy who owns this set got with his kit. So we'll just get on to the next segment. All right, so we're going to start with the clutch pedal to do our adjustments. Not a lot of adjustments on these. In fact, because there's not much on the clutch, I'm going to go ahead and do the pedal adjustment too. Now the pedal pads are adjustable in height this way. As you can see, there's two pieces here, and I can actually just loosen these and shift the whole thing up. But it's also offset in these holes. What I mean by that, and all the pedals are the same, so you can adjust them, is that depending on how you mount this thing, it's going to be more showing here on the metal or higher than it will the other way. And I'm going to demonstrate that by loosening one of these guys. And we'll see how we're on the clutch. We'll just do that one. Let's go ahead and get that one done. I'm actually using a 4 mil for this, even though this should be standard. It's probably a 5/32 more than likely. So I'll go ahead and pull these screws out. All right. One I'm not going to need for the demonstration, one I will. All right, so with it like this and the holes lined up, first off, we also have, you can see right here, 3 holes across here, right? So we can kind of move it over a little bit. Not a lot, but we can move it a little bit. At this stock setting like that, you can see I don't have much metal showing above this actual lever itself, right? It's kind of low. But if I flip this around and realign the hole, go ahead and put the screw in so I get it in the right place. If I can get the screw in, let's see here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put the screw in the middle. And right away you can see that there's more. All right, it's good enough just to line it up. There's more metal showing now on the top. So that means I'm getting about, and I measured it, about a 7 to 8 millimeter difference in height on the pedal. Not a whole lot, but some. And that's from flipping it around. And we still, of course, have the regular adjustment of being able, like I said, shift this up because of the holes themselves being where they are. And I'll just go ahead and leave this here at that position. Go ahead and slide this back on so it doesn't fall off. If I can get it on. There we go. All right. So that's the height adjustment. And of course you saw we have a width adjustment too, even though it's not a lot of width to be adjusting. That's standard for all these faces. I just want to go ahead and cover that on the clutch since I won't have much else to do here. And we have a, well, let's go ahead and look down here. We have a rod end in here that is pivoting on this clutch pedal, right? And it's actually attached to the shaft that comes out of our cylinder here. And it's threaded rod up here, and you can see we have a couple of nuts right in here. One here, one here. So I would actually loosen this up, and I could make this pedal go back and forth this way or that way. Not by much, but some. So I could align it a little bit better with my pedals if I wanted to. My brake pedal and my throttle over here, depending on what I'm doing, right? So it's another way to adjust it. Now, the one you'll probably use the most is going to be the stop. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and slide this back around this way so you guys can see the stop. And there it is. So here is the stop. This is actually a grub screw or set screw in here in the middle of a nut. That way. It's a 7/16 inch nut here. It's an 1/8 inch size hex in the side of that. And again, it's a set screw or grub screw that goes towards the rear. I'll kind of turn it sideways. You can see it there. And you can see there's a little green thing on the end of this. And what that is, a little pad so it dampens the sound when it hits the stop. And the stop is integrated into the bracket itself. You can see it right here. So there's our stop. So when I push the pedal down, that little green plastic piece is going to hit it. And that stops it. Just like that. Simple. Now, if you want to adjust this, it's very simple too. Now, they don't include any wrenches in your kit when you get this pedal set, which it'd be nice if they did, because then you have to go through your toolbox and search for the right tools and everything. But, yeah, it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and just loosen this up by turning it counterclockwise while I'm holding the set screw here. There we go. It's not much to do, really. It's not much force. And now that it's loose, I can actually come in here and turn it with my fingers to get, I'll turn it this way, which is clockwise, to make my throw shorter, which extends this set screw further back so it'll be shorter. Or if I want a longer throw, I would go the other way, counterclockwise. And then I would go ahead, run my nut back down, put my wrench back on it, get in here with my 1/8 hex, and then hold it while I tighten it down clockwise like that. So now it's tight. Now it won't move anywhere. And that's going to be my new stop for how far I want this clutch pedal to go, right? Simple. So that's about it for the clutch pedal. Not much else to do there, so we'll move over to the brake pedal. So now we'll do the brake pedal adjustments. And I'm going to do the bumpers first and then go back around to the bias bar real quick. I already did that in closer look a little bit, but getting rid of these bumpers and getting some softer stuff in here is easier to see how it works. First off, we have this wing nut on the end of it, and we'll spin that off, acting as a lock nut against this other nut, which I believe that's a 7/16. And we'll go ahead and get our 7/16 wrench and loosen that like that. Very easy. Didn't have it on that tight to begin with. So that comes all the way off. Just like most of these type of situations where you're going to change the bumpers. One thing here is this washer was bent. I'm not sure if it was bent from, and that's the way it comes. But when I was looking at it, probably was, because if you look at this, when you put these two bumpers on, you can see that there's actually no thread on the very end of that part coming out here. So if you look right in here, you can see that's a solid piece. If I take that off, you can see what I mean. See, it's solid right there. So if you put this all the way on, it's still solid. So you're never going to get the nut all the way down to tighten down on this. So I believe that's why we have this bent washer. Why they didn't just add a couple of extra washers, I'm not quite sure, but that's what we have. So it kind of fits on like that. Then it'll run up against it and tighten it up. But you can't really crush it, tighten it up. But you don't want to anyway. These things are really hard. So I'm going to take that off. And I'm going to take this bumper off, which is the black one. Remember, these are AutoFab units, and this is a B125. See if I can get you to focus there. There we go. B125 AutoFab. And we got another washer in here that is not bent. It's flat. Okay, we'll set that aside. And we'll take our red one off right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do to demonstrate is put the ones on that are softer. How much softer? Oh, let's find out. All right, so I'm going to go with the black ones first, and let's see if we can't get a shore rating off of this with my little gauge here. This is a durometer, and it's a shore A range. So we'll go with the black ones first. Let's see what we get there. I like to always kind of set it a couple of times to make sure I get it right. It looks to be about 80, a little over 80 there, which is not unusual. Now there is a white sleeve in here, right? So I'm going to flip it around and do it on the right sleeve part too and see what I get. So it's actually a little less there. Yeah, it's not very consistent across it. I'm going to say 80 is an average. So that's the black ones. Let's go over to it's kind of a rust color in the orange ones. I guess you could call them kind of pale orange. And we'll go ahead and look at those. And yeah, these are 65. Let's go 65. Yeah, about 65. All right, so 85, 65. Now let's go over to these guys. These are hard. I'm going to go over here to the black one first. Geez, that's 90. That's 95. This is you know, as soon as you take them off, you can tell if they're hard. Well, it's 90 there, but I was in one of the numbers, I think. There we go. Now let's tell you the red one. That felt a little softer. Let's see if it is. Not about the same. Interesting. I wonder if I flip them around this way, if I can get any better readings. Okay, yeah, geez, that's close to 100. Let's try the black one the same way. These are, as you can see, these are very stiff. Okay, that's less. There we go. So the red one's the hardest one, depending on where I hit this thing. 95. Yeah, I think the red one was the hardest one on the average there. Yeah, a little bit more. We're very close though, huh? These are very hard. Hard to demonstrate what the pedal adjustments are with those on. So I'm going to go with these guys. And of course, when I put these back on, I need to make sure I put my washers back on. I'll put this washer in between them. You always want one in between. And we'll go ahead and put another rusty looking one on there. Now these are actually thicker. You can see here, I don't have any of that smooth part exposed. So this, I'm going to actually be able to tighten this down pretty good with my 7/16 nut. I'll put that back on. Very simple stuff to do here. And I'm not going to put the locking nut on just yet because I really don't need to for demonstration purposes. Now, let's go back to the front of this brake pedal and we'll look at this brake bias bar again. Remember I said before, if you looked at the closer look, the further we take out on this part, it should be, the further we move this way with the bias bar, the easier it should be to push. So I'm going to push it now and see what it feels like. I'm going to hold the clutch pedal and push against that. And yeah, See how far I'm pushing it? So yeah, you get a lot of movement there. Now we're going to take the bias bar and we're going to turn it the other way. All the way. Because it'll stop by itself, because if you saw the closer look, you can see the smoother part here is coming out now. And you can also see our little bearing that's in there. Well, it's going to show up. It's right in there. Little central bearing. So now I'm going to run my locking piece back down on it so it won't move. So it should be, if I'm doing this right, should be harder to push now. And it is. All right, so this is a fine tune for once that we've changed our bumpers out here. Now I ended up with two black ones the way I liked it, and then I tuned the bar in the front here to where I liked it. So yeah, that's pretty much the adjustments you have here. Now remember, there are some clevises on the back of this brake lever. We got one here, we got one on the other side over here, and they have some rods in them that are threaded, and we can actually adjust those a little bit in and out of the clevises themselves to get the pedal position right here back or forth where we want it to be. So we can match it with the throttle or make it further back like I have this one to the throttle, or however you want to do it. But that's the adjustment. So there's actually 3 ways to adjust it. Now you have to remember that when you make any changes to the pedals, like we did over here with the bumpers on the brake pedal, that we're supposed to change those settings in the controller box through their menu system. And yeah, it doesn't matter which pedal you changed, whether it was the throttle pedal, if it's over on the clutch pedal, or if it's, you know, the brake pedal. You're supposed to go in there and make those changes using their interface and just changing parameters so that it all matches up. So every time that I changed that, I went into the box and made the changes as far as the travel, the dead zones, and things like that. It's just one of the things you need to do with this set of pedals. Now we'll talk about the throttle pedals adjustment, and there's really only 2 adjustments here. Now there are different springs you can get for this Tilton set that are stronger or weaker. Of course, this is a pretty weak one. Well, anyway, it doesn't take a lot of pressure to push it for a car pedal set, but you can get replacement springs for these. Now, but we're going to talk about the 2 stops, and that means we have one stop up here, and if I push the pedal all the way down, that's the stop that tells it how far back it can go. Then we have this stop down here, which is the return. You see it doesn't move when the pedal's moving, so the pedal's got another lip on it down inside of there that catches that. So when it comes, it stops like that. Currently, I have the maximum range adjusted on these. These set screws are, this one's all the way out and this one's all the way out. So I have maximum range back and forth. Well, I want to change that, right? So I'll take my 7/16" wrench and my 1/8" hex wrench. And it's the same thing as we did if you watch the clutch. Very simple stuff here. You put your 7/16. I use a box in, you know, just set it down on top of it like that. And then I'll come in on the top and hold my screw, or grub screw, or set screw, whatever you want to call it, as I loosen the nut. You don't have to loosen it very far, just a little bit right there did it. And once that's done, actually I need to take my wrench back off, then I can push the pedal down and come in with my fingers, because that's how easy it is, and either make it come further out, or I can twist my nut up like that, and then I can just push it down. Or twist it down so it will be down. Then I'll run my nut back down, and you can see it doesn't go very far now. So obviously you would not want it in that position. Yeah, that's pretty extreme. So I'll go ahead and run this back down. Let's go middle ways. There we go. So that's a little better. And the same thing back here. If I wanted it to only go like this far when I press the pedal down, then I would adjust this further down so it would stop sooner. Very simple. That's really not anything else to do with the accelerator pedal. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and move on to the next segment. Let's take a quick look at how we can program these pedals and all the different changes we can make to it. Now you have up to 5 profiles you can configure for this pedal set. And in those profiles, we can adjust things like dead zones, travel limits on pedals. You can go in the brake and do curves on the brake and the throttle, smoothing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do in there, handbrake stuff. There's a lot of things we can do. But I'm going to try to keep it simple here. First thing I'm going to do is load a profile. The interface we use here is this rocker switch here. It has 2 slashes or 2 marks on one side, 1 on the other. The 2 is how we put it in programming mode. And you can go on Rate My Tech site, download the PDF, and you can read all this stuff. It's all in there. And anyway, so I'm going to go into programming mode and try to load a profile. So I'm going to hold it down until it turns solid green. So I'm going to do that. There we go. Let go. Now I'm in programming mode. So I got to pick an option now. So I'm going to pick option 1, press it 1 time. It should blink back at me once. It blinked back at me twice. So I'm not in that mode. I'm in save mode right now to save a profile. And this is, I'm glad it did this because this is the kind of thing is inconsistent in its behavior. And if you let it sit here long enough, it's going to cycle. I turn red and goes back. So nothing happened. Okay, so nothing bad happened there. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to hold it down, wait for it to turn solid green, let go. Okay, I'm in programming mode. I want to go to option 1. It should blink once. Yeah, see, now it worked. Now I'm going to load profile 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it should load it, confirm what I've selected, and load it. It just flashed 6 times. I'm not sure why it did that. Let me go ahead and cancel the next option. See if it'll come back. Yeah. So I loaded a profile that didn't have anything in it. So you can see what happens. This is what happens when you do that. And if you sit here long enough, it won't reset either. Usually it resets, it goes red, and then green comes back on like we saw before. But there's a way around this. And I'm glad it did this so I can show you this. It's a hard reset if that happens. So you simply do this. You come over to your computer, you unplug the USB cord. Then you come over to your rocker switch and hold down the side with the 1 slash on it, and then plug it back in. Now we've got our heartbeat back, what they call the heartbeat, and that's this pulsating light here. So now I'm good to go again. So I just did a hard reset. So if you ever have a problem like that, that's what you do. So now I'm going to go back in and see if I can load a good profile. So I'm going to hold it down, wait for it to turn solid green. I'm going to go into load profile mode, which is 1 press. It should press back once, or flash back rather once. There we go, good. And I'm going to load profile 1. Press it once. And it should load the profile and everything will be golden. There we go. That's how it works. Now, if I wanted to change something within the configuration of this profile I have here, or any of them, see, the way this thing works is when you load a profile, if you make any changes, you have to save it to the same profile. And we'll go through that in a second. So first of all, I'm going to go, I want to do the travel range or limits for the throttle pedal. So what I'll do is go ahead and get back into programming mode by holding the 2 slashes till it turns solid green, letting go. And I want option number 3 for calibrate the throttle pedal. 1, 2, 3. That should put me in option 3. It should confirm that with 3 blinks. Well, it blinked 4 times. Did you count that? It's like I said, this thing's kind of inconsistent in what it does. So I'm in 4 now, which is calibrate the brake pedal mode. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to press the brake pedal as hard as I can. Okay. I did that, and hopefully it reads that and it'll flash to the next thing. I'm going to accept that, what I just did. You got to accept it too, by the way. So I pressed that once. Accepted it. It flashed red twice, so it's working, but I'm in the wrong option. And now I'm going to skip the second option by holding this double slash down. Skip it. So you see I'm back now. So nothing bad happened as far as needing to reset it, but I just calibrated something that I didn't really want to calibrate. But I haven't saved it, so that means nothing's happening. All right, so unless you save it, once this is unplugged and you plug it back in, none of those settings that you did while you were doing this will be saved to the chip in here, right? So let's try it again to the throttle. And this again is what I wanted to demonstrate. It's kind of clunky, it's inconsistent. It's just one of those things that it kind of makes you shake your head a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put it back into program mode. Okay, I'm going to go to option 3, which is throttle travel. 1, 2, 3. Wait for it to blink 3 times. We might get it this time. Let's see what happens. Yes, see, I did it. It's in throttle now. So now I can press the throttle down to the travel limit that I want. I'll let it go. Then I'll come over here to the 1 slash, press it once to accept what I just did. And it's one green flash accepted, and the two red flashes were for the second part, which is like dead zone, I believe, on this one. Yeah, dead zone setting. I'm not going to mess with the dead zone setting. I'm just going to bypass it by pressing the double slashes to accept what I've already done. Now that's on there. Now I haven't saved anything yet. So what I want to do is save this to a profile. So I'll click on this to get it back into programming mode again. Wait for it to turn green. There it is. So now I'm going to go to my option 2, which is save profile. 1, 2. So the changes, hopefully it brings twice. So yeah, it didn't blink twice. So you can see what I'm talking about here. It just is on the inconsistent side, and I can probably cancel, I think, twice. Once. Cancel again, yeah. So you can cancel your way back out of it, which is a good thing. But yeah, it should have saved. Let's try it again. It might work the second time. Back in programming mode. Okay, twice. 1, 2. Yes. So now I can click it as many times as I want the profile to save. And I'm going to save this to profile 3. 1, 2, 3. So it should confirm that and then turn green again with the heartbeat. It worked. There you go. See, it will work, but sometimes it just doesn't work like it's supposed to. And you have to do things to correct that. So anyway, I wanted to show you this. There's a lot you can do with this. You have to be patient. If it doesn't work the first time, be careful about what you're doing as far as saving the profile or not saving the profile. And when you load a profile that doesn't have anything in it, chances are it's going to have a problem and we have to do the reset. And I'm going to go ahead and try to load a profile to demonstrate that. Okay, so I'm going to go to option 1. I'm going to load profile. I believe profile 5 doesn't have anything in it. I may have put something on it though. So I'm in 1. It did it right that time. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. So load profile 5 is what I'm telling it to do. Blinks red and then goes to, I don't think it loaded it. It's just sitting there with a heartbeat now. But it's, you know, like I said, it'd be nice to have maybe an LCD or something to show you what did or did not happen, or be able to go in and look at the profile and see what the settings are. But yeah, it's not that. This is all you get. So just want to go over that with you real quick to show you some of the nuances, some of the little idiosyncrasies involved with their tuning options here, of the parameters that we can change on the pedals, and what it's like to actually use this interface. So let's take a look inside of this Ricmotech controller box and see what's inside of there. One of my favorite parts of reviewing things. Now there are 4 screws on each side of this. I'm assuming both of these plates are attached to some kind of a circuit board inside, but we're going to find out. And I'm going to use this to open things up, so bear with me. All right, there's 4, and the front panel is already starting to come off, so I'm going to be very careful as I turn this around and get the others off. All right, that'll do it. And yeah, these look to be about 20, maybe 25 millimeters long, little M3 button heads. Machined, which means that's a tapped thread inside of here somewhere. All right, so we've got 2 halves here, so I'm going to hold the back one on as I peek into here and see what's going on. All right, obviously that's where our switch is. Oh, something slid off. Oh, okay. We'll see that in a second here. And we've got the back part is connected also. So it looks like we have 2 connections here. So here's what I'm going to do. There's a circuit board in here. You guys can see that in there. I'm going to slide this whole thing out because I think I can just turn this sideways and slide it through this housing here. It's just extruded aluminum. So I'm going to carefully do that. Set that down so it's not in the way. And it looks like the circuit board is in one of the slots in the extruded aluminum housing. A typical kind of electronics box setup. Go ahead and pull that out very gently. Don't want to stress anything out. Okay, got the board out. Now I'm just going to kind of slide this part through here. Like that. There we go. And the part that came off is just part of the bracketing system. And obviously these pieces here hold this in from sliding out. And it just slides in and out with this little slot system here. little tongue and groove thing going on here. And we have it on the other side. And you'll see that attached to the cockpit once I have it on. Let me go ahead and take these off so they don't keep falling off. Yeah, just an aluminum extrusion here. All right, so we know we have an LED here and a switch, so we'll just go ahead and let that sit there. And what do we have here? We've got a board that looks like it's sitting on a proprietary board from Ricmotech, and I think because these are soldered on, I'm going to kind of support these with my fingers while I show you guys this stuff so nothing gets any tension on it. And so that's what the board looks like. And it says Ricmotech GTPro ECU board version 2. That's about all it says. Got some capacitors in there. And the board itself on here kind of looks like a Teensy board, which is a programmable unit that you can obviously put some firmware on. And that's where all the profiles and all the changes that we make are put. And this is non-volatile memory, I imagine. So once it's in there, it stays in there. So yeah, a clean little board. Let's look around the other side here. Anything over there? Nope. All right, well, everything looks nice and tidy. Looks like they did a good soldering job on it. I can't see anything really to complain about here. You can see, obviously, we have the little mini USB connection there with a zip tie around it going through the board to keep it from coming off of our little board in there from vibrations and such. Little cable unit in here on the USB cable. Yeah, everything looks pretty clean. So yeah, that was a pretty quick one, huh? Just a look inside. So now I'll put it all back together and we'll get everything, and we'll start getting everything ready to mount up to the cockpit. As you can see, I now have the pedals mounted. And yeah, it's going to be okay with these 6 mils. Got an M6 up there. We got one in the back slot like we saw how I was going to mount it. And we have all the cables routed over here, and they all congregate right there and then kind of slide down along my channel and then come up into the back of the controller box. And we have our color-coded plugs in the correct position. Come around and take a look at this controller box. And I have it mounted with some M5s. There's an M5 nut on the bottom, kind of like in the shadows. And then we can see this one on top. And yeah, we can see our blinking light up there. Green blinking. That means good, I guess. And we'll take a look at the front. Plenty of plate left over here for the heel plate. In fact, if this was my set and I was going to keep them, I would probably knock off about 100 millimeters of that because it's a bit much sticking kind of into my cockpit a bit here. But again, this is just for testing purposes, and we'll go ahead and walk around the other side here. And the same thing over here with our 6 mil nut, or rather T-nut and bolt. Socket head caps both. And over here, we have our other one. Running 2 of the rubber blacks. That's where I settled on. I think that's about the best for me. Of course, that's a very subjective thing. And yeah, we just have to get in. And once you use the pedals, then you can decide by switching them. I tried all different combinations rather. And this is what I settled on for my personal preference. Right, so now all we have to do is get in and give these pedals a proper thrashing. So we're at Sebring and iRacing in the Lotus 79, my favorite car to do the dance, if you will, with heel-toe shifting techniques. And yeah, this is just a blast to do if you have an H-pattern shifter and you want to do some heel and toe technique, like when they were really driving cars. Then yeah, this is a good one to use. It's just a fun car to drive when you're driving it like this. And yeah, you can do some really quick heel and toe shifting because of the way this thing works. Now, in this car, if you're watching me drive it, you don't have to use the clutch pedal for upshifts before somebody mentions that in the video, because this is a dog gear type of transmission or gearbox, and you don't have to use it. You can just match the speed of the travel of the gear and then shift it. But you do have to use it for downshifts. Anyway, I use it this way because that's how I drive in a street car, and it just keeps my practice up to speed. So, yeah, everything's good here. The throttle pedal is at the limits of its travel, which is where I liked it, and it just works great. It had the right tension for me on the spring. Now, remember I said that you can replace the springs in here for a harder spring, maybe a softer one. I'm not sure what they have in here, the way they ship it, but yeah, it worked fine for me out of the box. The brake pedal, as you can see, I'm using the black bumpers here, and then I was able to micro tune or micro adjust it using that front bias bar to exactly where I felt like I wanted it to be, and it was comfortable for me and consistent. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. You have to be consistent with your brake pedal. So no problems there. And again, this is a pressure-based system. So it's doing the job of a pressure-based brake pedal, which is really the best pedal to have, be it this hydraulic system based on the pressure sensors or based on the pressure in a load cell. Those are where you want to go with the brake pedal. So it's doing a great job here. I don't have any complaints once I had it dialed in for how it feels. Now, I like to mention here on a hydraulic type of sim racing pedal set, this does not feel like a real car's hydraulic system. So don't let anybody tell you any different. It just doesn't. It's not going to happen because there's so many things going on in a real car's hydraulic system and brake. There's just a lot more stuff going on. It doesn't even feel, to me, close to a real hydraulic pedal. But it is using hydraulics in a pressure system to get you to be able to use a pressure brake pedal. And you got to admit, the looks or aesthetics of this are just great from a car racing enthusiast point of view. We've got stainless braided brake line here. We've got all these hydraulic master cylinders sticking on the back. It's just one of those things that just looks proper, I would say. And yeah, I really like the looks of this pedal set. So yeah, the clutch is just something that even though you don't feel like, and I discussed this when I was talking about the clutch pedal, I think, it doesn't feel like you're pushing through a pressure plate spring and lifting that pressure plate off the actual clutch plate itself, because it's just a linear feel when you punch it. And there's no way to change that. But here's my thought on that too, is at the end of the day, when you're driving like I'm driving this and using the clutch like you're driving it, even if you did have a clutch pedal that had that built into it like some of these sim pedals do, when you start stabbing it like this, it's just all that goes away. You forget it. You don't even feel it anymore. You're just punching away at it, trying to make sure that you get the clutch and everything synchronized when you're doing the shifting dance that you do here in heel and toe. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day to me, even though it's nice when you're sitting in the cockpit and pushing it slowly and feel you're pushing that spring on the pressure plate. And yeah, it's just one of those things that's nice there. But when you're in the heat of battle, it really doesn't matter to me personally what's going on with that. So yeah, no effect, good or bad there, just getting the job done. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. I think, in my opinion on these kind of things, just gets the job done. It's adjustable enough to get you where you need to be. Again, the profiles and setting all these parameters, that's a whole different story with this brake pedal set. Like I said before, if you saw that, it's just too clunky for me and just not consistent enough. I think I would probably just set a basic configuration in there and go in my computer in DI view, or if, like in iRacing where they do their own calibration routines, and just set my dead zones and things like that in there, and really probably wouldn't mess with it. So yeah, just having a blast here, as I get to do every once in a while here at the Sim Racing Garage when I'm doing reviews. And I actually did a lot of laps here because it's just fun. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and get on to the final thoughts. Final thoughts on the RealGear GTPro3 Xtreme pedal set. This pedal set is based on a 600 series Tilton racing pedal set, which not only looks good in your cockpit, but gives you the feel of a real set of racing pedals underfoot. There are enough physical adjustments on this set to allow most people to dial in a comfortable feel when in use, I think. Being a hydraulic pedal set, they use what I would consider to be a good pressure sensor in the SSI Technologies units. The throttle pedal uses a Hall sensor setup to detect pedal position. The clutch pedal is set up to work in a pneumatic fashion with its own SSI pressure sensor. The pedals come with a set of stiff bushings from AutoFab, which are installed on the slave cylinder. If you find them to be too stiff for your driving style, Ricmatech also sells a brake tuning kit with softer bumpers. Once you have the bumpers you like installed, you can still fine-tune the brake pedal's feel and throw because of the way they have set up the tilt and brake bias bar functionality. The cables coming from the Hall sensor and the two pressure sensors are nicely done with aviation-style screw-on locking collars. The GTPro3 kit also comes with a long list of possible configuration options that can be implemented via their proprietary controller box, which contains a custom circuit board with an ECU daughter board. When I was using the switch-based interface on the box, I found it to be a bit clunky and inconsistent in its operation. But you can get the optional settings registered by exercising some patience and studying the instruction manual. This interface is the only section of this pedal kit that I was left wanting for a more user-friendly and graceful solution. The price point of the GTPro3 sets a very high level of expectation as far as performance and usability is concerned. And in my opinion, they could have come up with a better way to allow the user to make use of the available tuning options here. Overall, I did like using this pedal set. It makes you feel just a little closer to driving an actual race car. I'm Barry Rowland. Thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to help support what I do here at the SRG, visit my website at simracinggarage.com.